Welcome back, everybody. This is Glockman4519. I am back with another ROM overview. This one here is Dirty Unicorn, and it is for the Nexus 10. It is an unofficial build because we do not have any Dirty Unicorn builds going on right now, Marshmallow anyways, for the Nexus 10. Unfortunately, the Nexus 10 has suffered from lack of interest. We do have some dedicated developers out there, and thank God we do. They are putting out some incredible builds, but we do have our Dirty Unicorn fans, me being one of them, and you know, it really sucked not having this ROM for this device. I think the last time I ran it was back in December, and it just got to the point where you know, things were getting updated and updated. I wanted to go to Marshmallow. In order to go back to Lollipop, I had to flash the GApps for Lollipop. I was having conflict issues, you know, Play Store issues, you name it. And so I just gave up, and I stuck with the Marshmallow builds. But thankfully, we do have Dirty Unicorn for Marshmallow. So what I want to do is, first thing right off the bat, is I want to go to the XDA forum for this, the thread. And as you can see, it's Unofficial Dirty Unicorn version 10.2 Marshmallow 601. As you can see, the developer, Gamer and Gold, I can't even read that very well. Basically is doing an unofficial build until you know, somebody can come up with either you know, an official build, or the official maintainer from Dirty Unicorn happens to come back to the Nexus 10 and starts building for us. But I will say the ROM is running great. I even flashed this with the stock kernel, or supplied kernel. I don't want to say stock kernel. I flashed it with the supplied kernel, and it was running great. But I didn't want to close that out. I want to go home. But I also wanted to see, because I know there's going to be a lot of you guys out there that are going to want to do this. I also flashed, man, I'm just hitting the wrong buttons left and right today. I also flashed Khaon Kernel. It's his latest kernel for Marshmallow. I wanted to see what kind of performance tweaks it would bring, if it would be any smoother. And to be quite honest with you guys, the supplied kernel, I think, felt just as smooth, just as fluid as running Khaon's kernel. So I'm probably going to go back with the supplied kernel, just because your ROM is going to be more stable, more it's just better when you stick with what the developer put in the ROM to begin with. All right, it is for the Nexus 10, Android 601. This is an unofficial build. As you guys can see, I am running Khaon's kernel. I think if the kernel would be updated to the latest, it would probably run a lot better. Maybe give us more of those enhancement tweaks that us people who run custom kernels are looking for. But unfortunately, Khaon had his Nexus 10 stolen. And since his Nexus 10 is stolen, pretty much all development, since he doesn't do blind builds, has stopped as well. I've already posted on the forum that I was willing to go some money towards getting him another tablet, because we could really use a developer like Khaon working on this tablet. The more developers we get working on this tablet and developing for us, the better off we are. Alright, back to the ROM. As I did in my last couple videos, I'm going to go directly to the dirty tweaks, or the custom settings, and when I'm done, then I will go through the other settings. That way the people that don't like my long videos can move on. First up, you're going to have your miscellaneous tweaks. Again, in these tweaks, you're going to have your brightness control, you know, your task manager, your basic system UI tweaks, and not even system UI tweaks, but just your off-the-wall tweaks that we don't categorize in anything else. You're going to have your scrolling cache, your disable forced close notifications if you guys want to disable them, which I always do. Then, of course, you have your gestures. That'll be in there. And the SE Linux switch option. And I actually switched that over to permissive on the supplied kernel. So you guys that like running permissive, like I do, the supplied kernel will run permissive. The switch switches right over to that, no problem at all. And it does help with those apps that I run that requires a permissive kernel. So just so you guys know that. Then, of course, you have your LCD density. I think the LCD density on this ROM is spot on. I'm not touching a thing. Guys, make sure you do a backup before you go changing the LCD density on this. Swipe to the right, we have our lock screen settings. It does have mid and bottom shortcuts that you guys can add. That's one nice thing about Dirty Unicorn is it does have those settings, which is pretty cool. You have your lock screen wall config, lock screen notifications. If you do that, basically what you're doing is you are allowing lock screen notifications to begin with, and then you are going to set up how many you are going to allow on the lock screen. Next up would be your weather widget. This is basically the weather showing on the lock screen itself. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go through and set that up. Now when you get to the lock screen or the lock clock settings, this is going to be your widget settings. So what you set up here is going to be how your widget looks if you were to set up your clock / weather widget on your home screen. So these are the settings for that. I am happy to say that when I went to set up the weather, I had no problems at all. It picked it right up right off the bat and worked great for a custom location, the whole 9 yards. So all of that is working as it should. Let's see. And then, of course, you have your colors and fonts. Now, this is going to be where you can change the fonts on your lock screen. You can also change all of your color settings to whatever you like. Owner info, alarm, clock, and date gives you the options to change all the colors to that. Of course, you can pick whether you want any of those or all of them or none of them if you want, even on your lock screen. We are going to swipe to the right. That brings us up to the status bar settings. First up is battery, and I do have mine shut off. The 3-minute battery mod is working superbly on this. As soon as I downloaded the 3-minute mod or the 3-minute battery settings from the Play Store, at the instant it installed, my last battery that I had, my last battery icon that I was using popped right up right away. Now you do have to go into settings, obviously, and change the size because it's probably going to be really big, but it worked great. So kudos to Dirty Unicorn for that. They were probably the first ROM to incorporate this right into the ROM, into their code. So again, kudos to them for that. Then, of course, you have your battery bar. You can set that up with your where you want to have it at, or even not run it at all. And I like the settings on it that they have now. It's reminiscent of the later Lollipop builds of Pac-Man, kind of. As the battery changes, its percentages, it will change color for you. Then, of course, you can go with your battery bar alignment, whether you want it right, left, center, and then your battery bar thickness and your charging animation. I usually run with a 1 DPI, but for the sake of the video, I took it up to a 2 DPI just so you guys could see it. Again, guys, remember, do not watch my battery, because it's going to drain. It's going to drain fast. I am recording this in 1080p. Actually a little over 1080p. I've got my brightness up on high. I've got several apps loaded in the background running. It's going to use up battery. That's just what happens. This is not going to be realistic of what or how your battery is going to run for you. Okay. Next up is going to be your carrier label. You guys can pick what you want to run or not run it at all. I obviously went with DU, and also your next option is going to be, well, down here somewhere is going to be for your Dirty Unicorns logo. Now, again, the only gripe that I have, and it's not even a gripe, it's just more or less a personal preference, is I really wish that they would put in color options for the status bar. It's just too much white. I understand why they don't. It's for theming. Some of the CM themes that you download and run apparently have conflicts with it. I've never seen that, but you know, again, you know, it's their choice. It's their ROM. All ROMs are different, and that's what I like about them. Each ROM has their own little difference. Now, just because I would like the colors, you know, that's me. Whatever. Moving on. Time contextual header. You guys have it. It is there. That is another feature that I really, really like. It'd be nice if they would put a interchangeable header pack where you could download headers and just interchange them. You know, give you a little picker there or something. I noticed a couple other ROMs do have that feature. That would be pretty cool, but again, just them having it is cool in its own right. Then you have your DU logo. You can run it, you can turn it on, you can run it where you want. Clock and date. Right now I have it running center. That's my alignment, and I do have the AM PM showing as well as the date. And you can change your date style, format, all that. Again, no color. Then we have our quick settings. This is going to be where you set up your drop down, and you can set up all your tiles there. This is going to be where you set that up at. You have your right edge, you know, for your quick pull down. You have your smart pull down. These are your quick set tiles where you can pick and choose. This is what I have on right now. And this is what I didn't choose. So a lot of options. That is pretty much how Dirty Unicorn rolls. They do give you all kinds of options. Then, of course, you have your number tiles per row, enlarge first row, brightness slider, brightness icons, and vibrate on touch. Now it takes us to our status bar items. This is where you can pick and choose what you even want to show as far as icons go on your status bar. Let's say you have your alarm clock set. Do you want that alarm clock showing, that alarm clock icon in your status bar? If you do, leave it on, or turn it on. If you don't, you know, make sure it's off. And that's pretty much what all these settings are for. Pick and choose what you want to show. Next off would be your notifications. You have your force expanded, disable immersive mode messages, and your show notification count. And then we do have our traffic indicators. Right now I have it off. These are your options. I usually pick outgoing and incoming, and I usually like to take the inactivity threshold up a little bit. I don't like it just dropping away right away. I like to, sometimes I don't catch it right off the bat. But anyways, that's how I set it up. You guys can set it up however you want. Swipe to the right, that's going to give us our navigation. That's going to be your nav bar settings. You can enable it or disable it if you guys like. And with this being Dirty Unicorns, you do have the smart bar or fling mode. In the smart bar settings, if we click on this, these are your smart bar settings. And if I was to click on fling, these are your fling settings. Again, guys, I'm not very familiar with the fling settings. I don't use it, but here it is. I just figured I'd let you guys see it. A lot of settings there. I've heard nothing but good about it, but I've tried it and I really didn't like it. It just was not my cup of tea. So I am going to go back to the smart bar settings, something I'm a little more used to. And then, of course, below that you do have your pulse settings. You can turn that on. I have mine colored green. I actually like that because when I'm playing YouTube, some of the music videos I watch, that comes up. It looks really cool. I like that feature. And then, of course, you have your bar size. Those are your sizes, and that is actually default, and that's where I have it set. I didn't change it. Next up are going to be your buttons. This is going to be where you can reorient the buttons, You have your volume rocker wake, and you have your playback control. Slide to the right, it's going to be multitasking. This is going to be your app circle bar. I've showed you guys in the past what that does. You turn it on, basically pick some apps, and I will just go through and grab a couple of them. I'm not going to do a lot. I'm going to click OK. You set your trigger width, your trigger position, your trigger height, and then when you touch the bar, this gives you this little semicircle here with all the apps that you picked onto that little circle. It's a really cool a shortcut type deal. I do use it. I keep it off for the video though, but it is something that I use. Then you have, of course, your gesture anywhere. Those are your settings for the gesture anywhere. If you turn it on, as you can see, you have that sidebar, and you can set that up however you want. Then you have your multi-window, and I do run with the multi-window. I don't use it a lot. I turn it on all the time. To be honest with you, I never use it. And you would think with a tablet I would, but I don't. Then we have the Omni switch. You guys can run with that if you want. I know a lot of people that do. They use this for their multitasking with great success. I remember using it when we were running KitKat until Lollipop came out with the Rolodex. This was my way of multitasking, and I loved it. But since they come out with the Rolodex type recents, that's how I use it. So you know, that's just my preference. You guys do whatever you want, and that's what's cool about Android. It gives you those options. Next up is recents. You can have to show only the running apps. Right now I have to show pretty much everything. Anything that is in the background is going to show. And remember, I am on the full screen. So to basically get your nav bar back, is you pull up from the bottom and you hit the back button. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into settings. You have your AOSP recents, which is what I'm running. You have your immersive recents, which I'm running full screen right now. These are your other settings for that. You have your recents panel search. I'd like to see a memory bar in there. That would be really cool. They don't have it. You have your clear all button, and they give you 6 positions to choose from where you want to set that up at. Then, of course, you have your Omni recents, and below that you have Slim recents. Speaking of Slim, there is an unofficial build of Slim out for the Nexus 6, which I will be doing a video on maybe later tonight. I'm still kind of running it. I'm having some data issues with it. But as soon as I get those kinks ironed out, I'll probably pop a video out of that later tonight. That takes care of the recents. Next up would be heads up. You guys can run heads up if you want. I don't use it. These are your settings. Then of course you have your expanded status bar button if you guys want to run that. If we swipe to the right, that brings up the system. These are your system animations. Again, I would love to see just scrolling modifier on here, but it seems like Cyanide is the only ROM that has that option right now. Expanded desktop. You can pick and choose what you want to actually be full screen if you guys want to use that feature. Then, of course, we have our power menu. A lot of features on the power menu to pick and choose from, but make sure you at least hit the advanced reboot and hit show always if you want it to be there whenever you hit that power button and hold the power button down. If you don't, you are just going to get basically power down or just standard reboot. You're not going to get the entire reboot menu. But they have a lot of options on here, which is really cool. I do like options. You guys know me. The more options, the better. I like the fact that they have screen record on there. I do use this screen record app, the one that's built in for small things. I don't use it for big videos because it gives you a time, kind of like a time frame that it allows, and it just automatically shuts down. So I use AZ Screen Recorder. I think it's one of the better apps. I've tried them all. I actually have the paid version of AZ Screen Recorder. It was a little pricey. I think it's like $4 or $5 for the paid version, but very well worth it. Let's see. Then we have a System App Remover, and if you... all I can say, guys, is make a backup before you go removing system apps. I always pull out Chromium. I don't like running Chrome browser on a tablet. I don't like running Chrome browser on Android, period. It's my favorite browser on a computer and on my laptop, but I hate it on Android. There's something about it. I just don't like the way it runs on Android. Let's see. Then you have your wake lock blocker. If you guys use that, you just turn it on. You can go through there and pick and choose what you want to have a wake lock on. I highly suggest you look into it if you're not sure about it. You can get to the point where this will not receive any messages at all. It will not wake up at all, and you're going to miss out a lot. Last but not least is your ad blocker. I always enable that, but even though I have this enabled, I still always install ad-free anyways, just to make sure. You know, I'm pretty sure that's what they're using, but I install ad-free or ad-away. I can't remember the exact. It's the one with the red bird. I always install that anyways, just to make sure and run it. Last but not least is going to be your miscellaneous, and that's always your download center. Now, when it comes to standard settings, I'm just going to skip through a lot of this. You have your display settings. These are all standard display settings. You have your ambient display there. You can turn that on or off. Wake on plug, dashboard columns, which is a pretty cool feature. That is all there. Adjust target vibration. All your vibration control is going to be clean at the bottom of that. Then we're going to go over to sound and notification. This is going to be where you set up your sounds for your notifications, ringtone. If you're running, if you guys have a I can't think, a tablet with data as opposed to just a Wi-Fi like what I have, you can set up a ringtone for that, or if you're running Google Hangouts, you can have a ringtone for that, which I do use. I do use Google Hangouts. Man, I can't even talk. I do use Google Hangouts phone service. I use a lot. It's actually pretty cool. I like it better than I like Skype. Then we have our other sounds. These are going to be your settings for custom features. Your screen sound, your screenshot sound, camera shutter sound, all that stuff. Safe headset volume, and then of course on the bottom are going to be your system sounds, like your screen locking, charging, touch sounds, vibrate. You can pick and choose from that whether you even want it to show. I have all mine turned off just for the sake of making the video. Let's see, your notifications. You have your headset plugged in notification. Prevent audio ducting. I do run with that. It's a nice feature. Notification lights. Pretty much all you can do is just turn it on. There are no custom settings for these. And then of course you have your battery light. Again, you can just either have it on or off. Basically, there are no color settings for that. Then you have when device is locked, show all notification content. You can pick and choose what you want if you want anything to show. Basically, that's what that is for. We're going to go back now. Let's see. I think the next one I'm going to show is probably going to be security. Under security, you can encrypt your tablet. You have your device administrator. I always turn mine off. Your passwords, make them visible. Unknown sources, make sure you have that ticked on, or you're not going to be able to sideload or install any apps from your internal storage or from a download. You're just not going to be able to do it. It's going to tell you to come in here and turn it on. So you just turn it on when you set it up, just to be on the safe side. And of course, all the way at the bottom, you do have your pinning, your screen pinning. And of course, that's another feature I don't use. My grandkids are kind of old enough now that when I tell them don't mess with something, they usually don't. And besides that, they really can't screw my tablet up that bad. At least not Nexus tablets. There's always a way out with a Nexus device. So that's why I like Nexus. They're really cool. The OnePlus One is pretty close. I like them too. Let's see here. I think that's going to be about it, except for your developer options. Let's see. Not a lot in developer options. They don't put the normal things that we are looking for. I do like the terminal. But you definitely want to have your USB debugging turned on, guys. Again, remember, if you guys hit a wall flashing a ROM, or if you have your ROM flashed and you're your tablet just craps to bed. That ADB is going to save your life. To plug it into your computer, to be able to push files, to be able to pull logs. People, you can't just go on to Thread and say, I need help. You've got to give them something to go by. And logs are readable. Logs are like ledgers of what's going on. So just so you know. Again, there's not really a lot that I'm interested in here. Most of those settings are all moved out into the custom settings. Even your multi-window mode is moved out of the drawing section. You basically, all you have left are your animations, and you guys can change them if you want. With this device and 2 gigs of RAM, I'm not changing anything. It runs great. Let's see. And you guys notice how fluid everything's running. I'm not having any issues. It runs the same way with the supplied kernel, I'm telling you. And I actually have this overclocked to 1.8 gigahertz as opposed to its standard 1.7, I think. Yeah, 1.7 is max for stock. I'm running at 1.8 gigahertz, and there's no difference. Let's see here. That's pretty much it, guys. Again, it's Dirty Unicorn. What can I say except that I'm very, very, very happy that we have this back on our device again. And the developer did say that he was going to try to keep this up to date as much as he can. Again, he's only going to run this for, until either they get a different maintainer or the original maintainer comes back, or the original developer comes back to this tablet. We'll see. But we need to give a big shout out and a big thanks to Garnet and Gold. I think I said Game and Gold or Gamer or something. It's Garnet and Gold. So a big shout out to him. Kudos, thanks, great job. It's running great. I know it's going to be my daily driver now. It's definitely going to be Dirty Unicorn. So guys, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Again, I want to thank all of my subscribers, and I will see you guys on the next one.